Hello and welcome to Community Chats. I'm your host, Aley Hammer, and today on the show, we're joined with Evan Shellshear, the head of analytics at Biarri. Evan, we are so excited to have you on the show today. Can you start by telling us a little bit about what Biarri does?
Thanks, Elaine. Thanks for inviting me on the show today. It's a pleasure to be here. In a nutshell, Biarri is a company which was founded to leverage the power of mathematics to solve complex problems. We like to say we're democratizing mathematics. For those people that struggled in high school and realized that maths wasn't their thing, you don't need to worry, we'll do it for you. We're going to make it accessible for the masses. But I really think the best way to describe what Biarri is and what Biarri does is to tell you one of Biarri's founding stories, which was actually born out of the 2009 financial crisis. So in a similar crisis situation to the one we face today. And it was born out of a dilemma that a company in Melbourne had. And they're a well-known company, Asahi. And they had a big problem in terms of delivering their drinks to thirsty people. Around the world, as the global financial crisis hit, it crunched a lot of companies. And Asahi was a global company and it was forced to do something to meet the challenge that it now faced. It had margins being squeezed everywhere, demand was dropping, and it realized to be able to improve its bottom line, it needed to get more efficient. So it wasn't going to be able to drive up sales, it needed to drive internal efficiencies. Immediately when they reviewed their operations and looked at themselves, they found big Excel sheets everywhere. So what did they do? They went into their major Excel sheet, which drove their operations of getting their vehicles around delivering these important beverages. And they said, we can do this better. The current operators would sit there with an Excel sheet with somewhere up to 100 different tabs, trying to optimize the routes of the drivers to make sure things get there on time, taking into account traffic and a lot of other things. And it was at this point they realized they could do it better and they came and talked to Biarri. Biarri as an organization built its pathway in a field called operations research, which is an area of mathematics, and that deals with these kind of logistic problems. So what we did for Asahi was we took their Excel sheets, which they were struggling with, which were insecure. They weren't safe, they would break down, they would crash all the time. And we built them a web-based app powered with a mathematical engine that could, instead of having to look at an Excel sheet to make decisions all the time, they could turn to a web app, run scenarios, pull out optimal routes in a very short period of time and see that all in a beautiful user interface that made decision-making easy.
Wow, you really make commercial mathematics sound cool, and it's so awesome to hear that story. So how does Biarri use mathematics to add value to its customers?
That's a really good question. And it's actually one that a CEO answered for me the other day. I was talking to someone and she's a CEO of a large ASX listed company. And she said to me, you know, everyone's talking data, everyone's talking analytics and everyone's getting into it. And it seems to be the big thing, but it's starting to annoy me. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of data and analytics. She said, you know what's happening? Every day I'm getting handed a new report with new data and new information. And it's just too much data and not enough value.
Yeah.
The information is there, but it's not relevant to me. So how do I solve this? Like, isn't that the right thing to do, to see more data and try and inform your data-driven decisions with more data and more of that kind of stuff? And I said to her, no, that's not it. What you need is you need to use maths. And she was like, how do I use maths? Isn't that causing more of a problem? And I said, it's not. I said, what you need to do is you need to turn to mathematics. And this is part of Biarri's value proposition to help you make better decisions. That data is there to make decisions. It's not there to be reviewed and everyone to sit around and go, how great are we with the amount of data we have? It's there to help you make good decisions. And those decisions are made by using mathematics to turn that data into a format that says, we've analyzed all your options. We've looked at everything that's relevant for you, and we suggest the following courses of action because they're the best. They maximize your profit. They minimize employee dissatisfaction. They improve your on-time delivery. They improve customer service. So drop all that data, get rid of it. You need the maths and the analytics to cut through it all and get down to the one thing that you need to know. What is the best course of action for me right now?
Yeah, I love the way you put that. That's so interesting. Can you give us any insight into how you actually work with AWS then?
Look, it's a really good question because I'm a mathematician. I'm a maths nerd. I love maths, and that's why I work for Biarri. And I can look at something like a mathematical proof and see beauty in it, almost like a renowned word of Kavad. Right? I look at it and I go, that is just amazing. I love it. But the problem is a beautiful proof is not something that helps a company solve their business challenges. Companies have business problems, not mathematical problems. What helps with that is taking mathematics and turning it into a powerful tool. And how do we do that? We use cloud computing.
Mm.
For example, for a number of years, we've been helping ASX 200 retailers improve many aspects of their business to drive greater profit margins.
Mm.
However, before they met us, what they'd actually done is they'd done what this other ASX listed CEO had done. They'd talked to all sorts of other AI and data companies. And what they found is when they talked to these other organizations working on building models to improve their operations, the key process always sold to these organizations was get your data, clean it, transform it, and then just throw it at a bunch of algorithms to see what sticks. And this is what we're seeing for over 95% of the AI ML companies out there. Sometimes it works, but when it doesn't, who knows why? So the way we really approach this, and this is how AWS helps facilitate us, is we first do the math and we define the objects of interest and the relationships between them. So we try and get an understanding. We want to understand things. So you can talk all you want about AI being black boxes and you can try and replace them with white box. But if you don't get math that's going to that white box, it may as well be a black box. We do the math and we try and understand the objects of interest and get the relationships with them to try and understand what levers can we pull to have the greatest impact on the bottom line of a company. And it's not something that takes a long time to do, but if it's done correctly, it's something that makes a difference between a 5% and a 30% profit. And that's what the ASX retailers that we're working with see. But the final icing on the cake, and this is where AWS comes in, it's to access a suite of cloud-based tools with practically unlimited compute and storage behind them, like AWS. And the problems that we solve are typically so big that they require serious compute power to solve the sets of equations and achieve an optimal outcome. So that's really, AWS comes in and provides us with the foundation and the structure around our maths.
Wow. Evan, I love the way you talk, and I can see the leaves, rustling in the background. It's just so interesting. What I want to know is, can you explain to our listeners the difference between optimization and machine learning? And also, why does optimization require this deeper mathematical capability as well?
That's a really good question. It's something actually I go and do a lot of talks about around the place to tell people, look, what makes us different? What's the value proposition?
Exactly.
The difference really lies in the fact, if you look at a typical company that does machine learning and AI in that machine learning sense, so not an optimization sense or knowledge-based rule sense or anything like that, but do the machine learning. So your decision trees, your regression and stuff like that. The process is the following. It's as I mentioned before, you go in, you get your data, you clean it up, you probably feature engineer it, you get a bunch of algorithms, you test which one gives you the best performance on the metrics of interest, and then whichever one performs the best, you then deploy it to the cloud. And so in that whole process, you need some computer science skills. You don't necessarily have to have any mathematical skills. They can help to give you some insights and some intuition, but on the whole, it's almost like the social media marketing trend of the 2000s. When Facebook and the other social media companies came out, everyone was a social media expert.
Yeah.
Everyone could drive your marketing campaigns. And it's similar with ML and AI. Every company seems to be able to do it. What we find, however, the difference between optimization and machine learning is that in optimization, you've got a fundamentally mathematical problem. Fundamentally, what you need to do is you need to define your objective function, which is what am I trying to optimize or minimize? And how do I represent that as a set of equations? How do I represent the variables of that equations that are relevant for that optimization problem? What are the constraints? And how do I create a set of constraints in a fashion that hopefully is linear? So it means there's an easy solution. But if not, if they're non-linear, what type of optimization techniques are available for me to solve that kind of problem? And optimization really is the tool that gives you strategic superpowers, unlike anything else. It's the kryptonite to your competitors, basically. And I still remember one meeting that we had with an organization in New South Wales Health, where we came into the meeting and we're telling them about this new algorithm that we'd developed for the scheduling of patients into theatre slots, and it was going to have a massive impact. It was going to raise the number of people that get medical care by somewhere around 10%. There were benefits all around. And we were sitting there talking about these tactical benefits. And the chief executive leaned in and said, wait a second, these benefits are good, but the real benefits are strategic and not tactical. And I said, what do you mean they're strategic and not tactical? And she said, you know what I can do with this tool now? Not only can I schedule in more patients than I've ever done before and be able to run my theaters in an objective, in a clinically correct fashion, but I can now ask questions like, what happens if I want to build a new surgical theater? What impact will that have? Or what happens if I have to have a new overnight bed? In terms of investment, which one's the better option? What happens when COVID hits? How can I optimally allocate the resources? And so she saw those strategic superpowers that optimization gives you. And that's with that decision making, what is the best decision to be made given the constraints? And that's what optimization does that machine learning can't do.
Wow, thank you so much for that very articulate description. Evan, it's just been so wonderful speaking with you today. And for those watching this video who might want to get in touch, what would be the next steps?
Look, I think the best thing to do is just reach out to me on LinkedIn, send me an email at evan@biarri.com, or simply submit an inquiry on the Biarri website, and I'll see that and I'll make sure I respond to it. I mean, I'm happy to chat to people. I'm on many committees for mentoring and assisting. And so I think I love to hear from people and their different problems, and also love chatting with you today, Aley. Thanks for that.
Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day out in the fields, wherever you are. I'm very jealous. It looks really nice. Luckily, did you have a plan B if it was going to rain, or?
Yeah, look, it would have been at home. It would have been less interesting, but luckily the weather played well today. I think as a mathematician and someone that drives with data, the probability of rain in Brisbane is low enough for me to give it a shot.
It would have added some nice effects anyway. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.